You.
I am great. So excited to have you here with me today.
Thank you. So excited to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Oh, you are so welcome. You are one of our favorites. And, for Black History Month, when I started in August, it was really important to me that we highlight people of color during Black History Month. And I was like, I'm going to start with Toni. And everybody's like, yes, we are.
Well, I am honored. I'm so honored to be helping kick off this campaign and so grateful again to be invited.
Yeah, that makes me really happy. So it's a very informal and fun interview. I know you already did the the written interview that we did, and we asked you some really good questions and you answered them. I'm like, she's just such a vibe. I have a I have a 12-year-old daughter, and that's one of her favorite words. So you are such a vibe. And
Well, thank you. It feels like an especially special compliment.
Yeah,
Thank
look,
you.
you're a vibe and a mood. Okay.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
A double whammy. Okay, I'll take it. I'll take
You
it.
all of that. So when we were like, well, we know we're going to do the written interviews, but we want to do some live interviews as well. And I was like, okay, I'm going to ask and see what she says. And when you said yes, I was just like,
Of course. It's always a yes for me, always.
that's a really good thing. That's a really good thing. So we're just going to dive in and introduce yourself to the audience who I'm sure already knows who you are, but for, formalities, I'll let you introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to the questions if that's cool.
Perfect. Okay, great. So I am Toni, the crochet designer and educator behind TL Yarn Crafts. I've been running my business since 2013, started designing in 2015, quit my day job in 2017, and now I do crochet designing and education full time, which is really, really exciting. And current obsessions would definitely be Tunisian crochet. That's like my number one. That's my heart. And then just anything you can do with fingering weight yarn. I've really been exploring some lighter weight yarns lately, and that's been really fun.
That's really cool. So I posted on our Facebook group. I opened it up so people can ask you questions. And one of the
Cool.
questions that I got from Kelly Hamilton, she wants to say, I'm already a huge fan of TLY.
Thank you.
She's so talented. I'd like to hear about her life pre-crochet maven. What did she do before she started her crochet business, and what prompted her to go all in?
Oh, that is a great question. I love diving into that because I don't really talk much about my life pre-yarn.
Yes.
Sometimes I don't feel like I had a life pre-yarn. But okay, so we'll take it from post college. So I went to college, got my undergrad in psychology, got my grad degree in nonprofit management. And when I graduated in 2010, I had the mentality of, okay, we're going to go find a really good job, get some really good benefits, and we're going to work this job until we can retire and go sit on a beach somewhere. That was the mentality. That was the idea. It did not work out that way. Actually, in 2010, it was very hard to find a job. It was extremely difficult, just with the recession happening, fresh out of school, not a lot of experience. And I had also moved to a new state. It had been my first time in Ohio, so I didn't have any contacts here. I didn't have a network. So I really felt like I was kind of starting from the bottom. And that's where kind of yarn got introduced. Well before it was a business, yarn was just a hobby. It was just something to pass the time while I was still looking for work. So I eventually did find work in a nonprofit organization. I actually worked for a program called Dental Options, which I didn't know that this was a thing, but they connect doctors and dentists with people who need dental care, because there's a lot of health risks associated to not taking care of your teeth. Lots of things that can happen with your organs. You can be in immense pain. And then even outside of that, just the aesthetics of having a beautiful smile. We all want that. So it was a really great opportunity to just feel like I was being part of the solution in a way that was brand new to me. I absolutely loved that job, and I did that for a couple of years. Eventually got promoted within that company and worked on a couple other projects. I eventually moved on and got a job with our airport here in town. and I was with the recruitment team in human resources. So I always like to say I was on the fun side of HR. I wasn't firing people, I was hiring people. So I absolutely love that. I am a people person, so it's really fun sitting across the table with people every day, interviewing them, being able to call them up and be like, hey, we got a job for you. Can you start next week? Like, I loved my job. I loved the
Yes.
people that I worked with. I love the people that we hired. And I really liked working at an airport, because you got to see the hustle and bustle of people kind of coming and going. And it was really fun. So it was while I was working at the airport, though, that T.O. Yarn Crafts really started to take off. So this was a night and weekend type hustle. And eventually, the designs, I kept cranking out the designs. Companies like Furls and many others were like, hey girl, we want to work with you. And honestly, I didn't want to say no anymore. I wanted to say yes to everything. So, I kind of made that hard decision to be like, we're going to give this a go. And that's why I quit back in 2017. It's been a
That's
journey.
awesome. I mean, just having the knowledge, knowing that this is something that I love, I'm passionate about it. Although I do love my 9 to 5, I'm enjoying it. I get to see people, I get to engage with people, but this craft is like my passion, and
Right.
I'm just gonna
Right.
do it.
Yeah.
What were the hardest points of making that transition?
I think one of the most immediate hardest points of figuring that out and whether I was actually going to do it was saying, do I really want to sacrifice a regular paycheck? Do I really want to sacrifice health benefits? Do I want to sacrifice some of the fringe benefits I get from working at an airport? And then even beyond that, some things that I didn't even consider at the time were, do I want to sacrifice working in an office with other people? I don't, as much as I love what I do, it's very solitary, and I'm a social person. I need people.
Right.
So that was something that I had to sacrifice, being in an office, having office friends, having somebody to come to my office and say, hey girl, you've been working hard. It's 12 o'clock. We about to go eat. Like, get up.
Right.
I don't have that anymore. So giving up what felt like, that more standard work environment for something that's a little bit more self-driven is something that I had to consider. And it was a tough choice. Also, besides that, I really did like my job. I love my boss. And I don't tell this part of the story super often, but when I put in my 2 weeks, girl, I cried. I cried in my boss's office. So it's like, I don't want to go, but there was just no way to balance it anymore. It was kind of an all or nothing thing. Yeah.
Knowing when to make that transition is so key. I know that there are a lot of people, who especially over the last year have begun to make their side hustle their main hustle, with all the jobs and everything closing down, making that transition, knowing in your mind, okay, this is something that I have to do.
Yes.
I'm so happy that you were able to come to that decision.
Thank you.
Because
I'll
now,
definitely say, for anybody who's considering it, I put the decision off as long as possible. Like, I wanted to continue to side hustle with this and build up some savings, build up some status at my job. And unlike, I think, some people who go into their creative pursuits full time, I actually liked my job. So it wasn't a matter of like, yarn is going to save me from a crappy job. This was truly a decision that came down to, it was a fork in the road, and I had to make a decision. But for somebody who, especially in this tough time, is trying to figure out if a creative career is a good fit for them, I think it's just important to consider, what's going to make you feel at ease. Are you going to be able to secure healthcare, childcare? Are you going to need transportation? Do you have any kind of safety net? Do you have some money saved up, or do you have somewhere you can stay for a while until you kind of get things going? Thinking about that stuff ahead of time is going to make it a little less stressful when you finally decide to quit.
I absolutely agree. So what did you do? Like, what kinds of things were you able to, say, okay, I can do this, but I can't do that? Like, how did you, not having the friends to come over, put the hook down, girl, come on, let's get something to drink. How did you find that happy medium?
Yeah, I think, well, I will say this, if I'm being completely honest, because I think people will want that. The first maybe, so I quit my job in September, right? And at the time I was still doing craft shows. So I was leading into the busy holiday season.
Mm.
So from September till about mid-January, I had no life. I had no friends. I ain't call nobody. I ain't talk to nobody. So I was like, you know what? I just quit my job and I have about 3 to 4 months to kind of prove to myself that this was actually worth it. And if I don't make the money that I'm expecting to over the next several months, I'm probably going to start looking for another job. So there was this period right after quitting where it was just about the work. It was about proving to myself that this was the right decision. But then after that, I was trying to infuse some normalcy, trying to figure out what my actual day-to-day is going to look like. So that included setting an alarm to stop and eat lunch,
Right.
Texting my friend in the middle of the day, because that's what I would have done at my day job anyway, taking a day off every now and then, taking off a Wednesday, taking off a Friday, because I would do that at my day job. And just those little things that I tried to transplant from working outside of the home and bring that in the home just to make it feel a little bit like normal. Because I will say those first few months when I was grinding super hard for the holidays, girl, I ain't never been so dehydrated, hungry, tired. Girl, I was all crusty. I wasn't moisturizing like I was supposed to. I was a mess and a half. The only time I ever put myself together was when I was about to go sell at a craft show.
Wow.
Like self-care was not in my vocabulary. And not to say that it should be done that way, but sometimes that's just how it goes. You have these ebbs and flows of like super busy work times, and then you can finally take a bit of a break. But that first few months after transitioning to full-time was, it was go mode for months.
Yeah, I'm sure. But look at you now, girl.
I know. It's only taken what, 4 years for me to get my stuff together.
Listen, the key is you got it together and you're doing it.
I got it eventually.
And we see you. And I just wanted to make sure that you knew that we see you and we are so proud of you. As a Black woman, I'm proud of you. As a crafter, I'm proud of you. As a woman in general, I'm proud of you. And I think that everybody watching can echo that and say, yeah, she's really done this thing and it's possible and maybe I can do it too, And I think it's really important that we're able to inspire others and let them see, being transparent, like you were just now saying, self-care just wasn't happening at that time. I was really grinding. I was really trying to get this stuff done. And with that in mind, what were your top sellers back then? Like, what were you grinding on?
Oh my goodness. So by the time I actually quit, I am proud to say that I had like narrowed down my booth. Everything in my booth was a top seller. Okay. Because by that time I had the time to do the trial and error to say, okay, this hat style works better than this one. So I'm just going to make all the hats in this style in a bunch of different colors, because that's really what made the difference. If that style worked, I would just make it in a bunch of different colors. So if somebody likes blue over charcoal over a variegated colorway, I got all the options. I got everything. So it wasn't so much about the product, and it was more about the process behind like setting up the booth and making everything very shoppable and showing how this piece over here matches with this piece. So buy them together, instant gift, you're good to go. The like selling it at that point, like the product was good to go. And now I had to be on. I had to be Toni the saleswoman in that moment. And it worked because I love people and I've worked in sales jobs before. And I feel like I know how to kind of read people and see, like, are they really just looking around? Are they just, walking the whole show and they might pick up a hat and keep walking, as opposed to the person who's maybe come around once or twice already and they looked at that hat already and let me put out some more of those before they come back so they're good to go. Like just that kind of stuff. And you learn it with time. There's no amount of blog posts I could have read. There's no amount of people I could have asked to say, how do I become successful at craft shows? It really just became showing up, figuring out what works and what doesn't, and adjusting accordingly.
Absolutely.
That's really what it came down to.
I feel like you got it. I feel like you did it.
The only thing though, and I'll say this, and I don't know if it's because I started craft shows too late, girl, I had to quit because I started having back problems. Loading that stuff in and
Yeah.
out of,
Yeah.
and you never know what kind of venue you're going to have. I did a lot of shows in like these really beautiful churches that were built forever ago. So they ain't got no elevators. The stairs are super steep, and
Right.
you and about 40 other vendors are trying to load in and out all at the same time.
In
And
the
it just
basement.
got to be, yeah, it was
In the basement.
so many church basements. So many, but it just got to be physically taxing. And that was one of the first pivots that I made in my business to say, okay, as much as I enjoy selling at craft shows, one, it's seasonal. So I have about 3-4 months to make as much money as possible. And that just wasn't sustainable over time. Two, it's tough on my body, because not only was it loading in and out on the day of the show, but I mean, it's like the 4 or 5 days leading up to it. I got to make all this stuff, tag it, pack it up, take it down in my car, all of that. It was a lot. And then three, I was like, there's just got to be an easier way to make this money. Like there's gotta be. So, you know, I had gotten into designing at this point. And once I kind of saw the writing on the wall that craft shows are not going to be my forever job, I started ramping up, you know, working with companies, designing, doing collaborative as well as independent projects, and really seeing how much of my business could become digital and could become something that I can give people access to without it taking a toll on my body.
Right. That was a wonderful segue, because that's what I was going to ask you about next, was designing. How did you get into designing? Do you remember the first thing you designed, and like what that process is? Because that's my goal for 2021, is to design something. I want to design something. I don't know what it's going to be, but I want to design something.
Put it out in the universe.
Yes,
so that's where it starts. That's where it starts. So my very first design was the Mega Palm Beanie. And I love telling the story because it's so close to my heart. So I was selling at craft shows. Everything's going great. And I wanted like that signature hat at my booth. And I didn't have it yet. And I started scouring all of the pattern selling sites, Etsy, Ravelry, everything. And I just could not find what I wanted, because it was a real specific list. It's like textured body, thick brim, big old pom-pom. I wanted it to be slouchy. I wanted it to be unisex. I had a whole lot of requirements, right? So since I couldn't find what I was looking for, I was like, you know, I think maybe I could figure this out. Maybe, you know, isn't that how people do this? You know, so I, you know, I started looking through my pattern, my stitch dictionaries to pick a stitch. I started, you know, watching YouTube videos about different techniques for brims. I learned how to make pom-poms as quickly as possible and really full and beautiful. So I ended up designing the Mega Palm Beanie, and that name took a while to get there, but that's ultimately what it was. So I started making them for shows, and to encourage people to come to my shows and buy my product, I started sharing about this hat on Instagram. So my message was always, I just made this hat. It's going to be at my booth. Come buy it. But people are like, I don't want to buy it. I want to make it. So how do I do that? And I was like, no, just come buy it. So they started.
You buying it.
Exactly. That's the transaction. Okay. But since that wasn't the conversation they wanted to have. So it got me to thinking like, okay, well, this is something that I made up, and it's not available anywhere else. And if people are saying they want to buy it, like, I guess I could make it available. I've bought patterns before, so I'm sure I can find out how to sell them. And that's what started my my very first PDF pattern sales, and it really just kind of took off from there, because people loved it. People really took to it, and seeing it was the first opportunity for me to see how somebody's going to take a pattern and put their own stamp on it. So like picking really interesting yarns, doing it in multiple colors, sometimes leaving the pom-pom on it, making the brim longer or shorter, just like all these little tweaks that show people's individual personalities. And I had never seen that before, because I was selling a finished product. So I was like, wow, this is actually kind of cool. Like this, it actually was much more inspiring to me to design something and have somebody put their own spin on it, as opposed to creating and selling this finished product. And I think that also encouraged me to come up with more designs. And that was kind of the catalyst, because it kind of became this kind of cyclical kind of process. Like the more I designed and put it out there, the more people bought it and put their own spin on it, the more inspired I got to make more things. And then it just keeps going. And I think I'm still kind of in that place, because every time, especially right now, I'm running a crochet along where people are making all these different TL yarn crafts patterns, and there are patterns I designed years ago that I haven't really seen anybody make in a while, and people are gravitating towards those as well. And I'm like, wow, people actually like my stuff. That is what's up.
Ah,
That is exciting,
I
you know?
know that must be an incredible feeling,
Yes.
knowing that people around the globe, you'll never meet in person, but they
Yeah.
have a piece of you and they're recreating something that came from your
Yes.
brain. That must be like the
It's so
ultimate.
exciting.
Yeah,
And it never gets old. It never
right.
gets old. Like and I've told myself multiple times in my business, if I ever get to a point where I'm just not inspired to do this anymore, then I
Mhm.
just won't. Like I've
Yeah.
always believed that people and circumstances, all that stuff happens in seasons. And
Mhm.
I'm here to receive whatever season I'm in. And since
Mhm.
2017, I have been in the season of designing and sharing that art with people. And I just continue to be inspired by others and what they do with the little bit of something that I put out. It's really, really exciting.
I love it. And you are the queen of the segue, girl. You just right on. We all together here. So my next question was going to be, who are some other makers that are inspiring to you? Like, who are three people that you follow and are like, yeah.
Oh yeah. Um, wow, that's a great question. Okay, so the very, very first person that comes to mind is Jake from Ken Yarn. I don't know if
Mm,
you know Jake. So Jake is based in Rhode Island, and
mhm.
he's just the sweetest person you'll ever meet. Jake is all like musicals and happiness and fun and togetherness. He's just the best.
I
And
love it.
Jake and I connected several years ago at a yarn event, and we've had the opportunity to collaborate together and do crochet alongs and patterns together. He's dyed yarn for me. I've created things out of his patterns, and we have this really great business relationship, but he's also somebody I can reach out to and be like, I'm stuck on this, can you help me out? He's just in that kind of circle of trust
That's
of
awesome.
people that have gone from just being, maker colleagues to
Mhm.
to an actual maker friend. So he's awesome. um Oh man, I just don't want to leave people out. Okay, I will say it's not necessarily a person, but
Okay.
something that's actually been inspiring me a lot lately is the pottery community on
Oh,
Instagram.
okay.
Um, and I never really consider, like, I love like handmade mugs and things. I always have something nearby,
Uh-huh.
but I never really considered how creative somebody can get when they make a mug by hand. And I
Mm,
and I think about it like, there's probably somebody out there who doesn't think, well, how creative can you get designing a blanket?
mhm.
A blanket's a blanket.
Right.
So when I look at pottery hashtags, I'm like, wow, that's a really cool design. That's a really cool shape they came up with. And that inspires me. And drawing inspiration outside of my niche is really what I try to go for. I
Mhm.
try my best not to look at trends within the maker community because it's inevitable that things will start to look
The
similar.
same. Yeah.
So I try to draw my inspiration outside of knitting and crochet.
I love
So
that.
pottery accounts are really, really exciting to watch. And I think one person that I love to follow, even though I'll probably never make her stuff, is Andrea Mowry, the
Okay.
knitter.
Uh-huh.
So I don't knit. It's not my thing. I love to crochet, and that's just what it is. But Andrea comes out with just the most amazingly inventive and exciting patterns, and
Mhm.
to see how engaged her community is. Like, she's one of those aspirational kind of people that I'm like, that's what I'm going for. I'm trying to get to a point where I put out a pattern and immediately 200, 300 people are making it. I want to get to the point where people, like, my audience is really comfortable coloring outside the lines and working with hand dyed yarns and,
Mhm.
and working with different fibers. And
Mhm.
I feel like her community, like, she's gotten them there, and I'm
Mhm.
trying to get mine there. Like, it's
Okay.
like that's what I'm shooting for right now. That's my girl.
I think you're getting there. I do.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
working
you're
on it.
getting there. I mean, just looking at your YouTube and looking at, I just recently joined your group on Facebook and I'm like, oh, these people are good. And, just
And
seeing,
so motivated.
yes, I'm like, wow, they
So
better go ahead.
I
It's
know.
really inspiring. And I think it's because of what you're putting out and what you're, letting people know, look, you can do this.
Yeah.
Your YouTube videos, they're so clean and clear and concise. I was
Thank
watching
you.
one of your Tunisian videos and I was like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah,
So yeah,
you
I
can.
can do that. I can make something. So
Yes.
thank you. Thank you for,
Yeah, my pleasure.
making this community. Thank you for allowing yourself to be vulnerable to the different ideas and to reach outside of the maker, the fiber makers and looking at
Yes.
other crafters and other things that people are doing and bringing that over to us. So thank you
Oh,
for
yeah.
that. I really do
Oh, my
appreciate
pleasure.
it.
That's what keeps it fun for me. And I think if anything, it's especially mentioned in the Facebook group, I've never seen such a energetic, enthusiastic group of people.
Mhm.
And as much as I would like to take credit, I really feel like I can't. I feel like everybody, like that energy just feeds off of itself. And everybody who comes in there is like, oh yeah, I'm excited. I'm doing this. And I'm like, all right, girl, let's go. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I just like they get me back excited because I mean, I feel like anything that you do for money is going to become work. As much as I love what I do, it
Mhm.
is work. And
It's
there are
work.
some days that I'm like, oh, I got
I
to
don't
sit at
want
this
to do it.
computer for 8 hours and
Right.
write up patterns and reply to emails. Da, da,
Right.
da. Like some days are just not as inspired as others, but I'm grateful that I can go into this space and like soak in a little bit of that energy because sometimes I need it. Not
Yes.
every day is, big smiles and excitement. Some
Yes.
days it's like I'm
I don't want
exhausted
to
and
do
I can't
this.
do this no more.
And
Um,
speaking of which, when you don't want to do this, or when you're not crocheting, or when you're not making up patterns, what do you do on your in your free time? Like, how do you?
You know what? I'm obsessed with audiobooks. I've
Okay.
always loved to read, but of course, since I'm crocheting all the time, I have not mastered crocheting without looking at it. So I'm always listening to an audiobook, always
Hmm.
listening to music. My husband and I also have, very similar tastes in TV and movies. I
Okay.
love to watch movies.
Okay.
I love to watch TV shows. Like
What's your
when the
favorite right
pandemic
now?
first started and Tiger King came out, girl, I took like 3 days off. I was like, I'm about to
Stop
binge
it.
this. I love it. Oh my goodness, I love it. Like that's one of my favorite pastimes is like watching these shows and movies and then, sharing them with others. Whenever I watch something really interesting, read a really good book, I always love to share it with others because I want them to
Likewise.
feel, what I felt as well. So when I take a break from yarn, it's literally like veg out time, nothing
Yes.
productive. I have
Same.
no other hobbies.
Same. I just recently got into Superstore. I don't know if
Oh
it's
yeah?
hilarious.
Is it?
I,
I've seen like little commercials and
I
clips, but I've
recommend
never
it.
gotten into it.
I recommend it. It's hilarious. And if
Okay.
you just want to veg out half an
I
hour,
need a new
you know,
series. I
yeah,
do.
yeah. Check it
Okay.
out.
I'll be checking
Check
that
out
out.
Superstore. Check
I
out
will.
Superstore. What else? I mean, what else would you like to share with us today? I mean, I feel like that, 2017 and getting started was really
Yeah.
inspiring and something that people really did want to know. So I'm glad you were transparent with us and was able to
Oh,
share
my
that.
pleasure. Yeah, I think if anything, I have this mentality, and I know we've all heard it before, but if I can do it, anybody can do it. I don't feel like I have any special skills or have been, I don't feel like there's anything that I started with that anybody else doesn't have access to. I read all the blogs, I signed up for all the courses, I sent DMs and emails to people that I thought could help me at that time. And thankfully, this maker community is so generous. I mean, just so generous to the
Yes.
point where it's like, there were things I didn't even think to ask that,
Mm,
people who had already, that were in a place where I felt I was trying to get to, were happy to share about their experience and give me tips and advice and put me in touch with people that, might be able to help. I'm grateful for companies like Furls who, gave me a chance when I didn't have much of a following. I was, still really just trying to figure things out.
Yes.
And I think you guys were able to see the potential, which I appreciate. And you guys are great about, working with accounts large and small, and recognizing the people who use your product and your devoted fans. And I was that for a very long time. And well before anybody was sending me any hooks or any yarn, I was taking all my little coins and up in my toolkits and trying out my furls hooks and all that good stuff. So I'll definitely say, like, those first couple years, it was all about just building the foundation, figuring out what it was that I even wanted to put out content for. Because at this point, it's not just about the patterns, and it very well could have been, but it's about the YouTube, it's about the Facebook group, it's about the Instagram community, it's about, going to events and teaching at online conferences. And there's so many kind of arms of TL Yarn Crafts now. And I think the reason I did that was just to make sure there was always some money coming in. I think that's always my fear.
I know that's right.
It's always my fear that, like, something's going to dry up. And between 2017 and now, there have been several ventures that I've entered into with different companies or things that I've tried that, everything's got its end. So that thing ended, and now I just got to do something else just to make sure I'm always feeling a little bit secure, You never know. You never know how things are going to change.
You never know, because we certainly didn't see 2020 coming. So you never know. And it's good to be prepared. And I'm so glad that you are thinking that way and forward thinking. And again, I love that you said, yes, it's always yes. I'm just, hey, you never know where it might lead. And to end us off, what is your motto that you live by?
My motto right now, and it just changed for 2020. My motto for 2021 is quality over quantity.
Yes.
For a very long time, I was like, I need to put out as many patterns. I need to get as many followers, like all of these very surface level statistics of success, right? As long as I was getting the highest numbers and all the things, that was success for me. But that definition has now changed. So instead of putting out as many patterns as possible, I want to put out a few really, really, really good patterns, like great patterns, memorable things, like this little girl right here.
She is gorgeous, by the way.
I'm a fan.
She cute. She cute.
So I'm really chasing I'm chasing rest right now. I want to make sure that I'm prioritizing taking care of myself, getting rest, staying hydrated. I mean, honestly,
and moisturized.
And moisturized, girl. I'm telling you, I keep so much lotion around me now. So much, just to be ready. And I think, and this might be TMI, I don't know, but if for anybody else who works from home, like, there are little things that you have to make time for every day. You got to make time to brush your teeth, make time to shower, make time to eat, make time to step outside and get some air. And it's these little things that over the course of my business, I hadn't made time for. There were days where I would literally wake up and walk from my bed to my computer, sit down and work, and I wouldn't get up until 5 o'clock. Like, there were those days. And now I think, and I'm grateful for the growth TL Yarn Crafts has had to give me the latitude to do this. Like, I look forward to stepping away from my computer at 4 o'clock every day. I look forward to resting my butt on my favorite spot in the couch with no yarn in my hands and just chilling with me and my cats and my husband. It's those things. And that's my motto. It's quality over quantity.
Quality over quantity. Well, I am glad that you were able to share that with us. I'm glad that you had time for us today, and we are so excited about your future. Share your handles so that people who, I don't know who they are, but people who don't know who you are can follow you and like and subscribe. You can
Well,
share.
folks can find me at TL Yarn Crafts on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and YouTube. And I definitely invite everybody watching to join my Facebook group, TLYC Makers. It's a whole lot of fun.
It's a
So much.
vibe. It's a
It is a
vibe.
vibe. It's working on being in a mood. It's a vibe, though.
It's
It's
a vibe.
baby steps, you know?
Absolutely. Well, Toni, again, thank you so much. Looking forward to your future and everything that you have in store. And thank you again for working with Furls. We absolutely love you and wish you all the success.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you for
very
the
welcome.
invitation. It was such a pleasure chatting with you.
Likewise, likewise. Well, we'll talk to you soon.
See you later, love.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for joining us for this interview. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned something new about Toni. Please check us out on www.furlscrochet.com. Bye-bye.